senators to step up, members of Congress to step up, and someday, administration to step up to get this done.
You and William Wallace are here to help. Why are you here to help inform who?
Well, we're here, I think, for a variety of reasons. We're hoping that companies, that members of Congress, and maybe folks over at DOT will hear and see that this is possible. I'm an engineer too. I come at all this from the same perspective. You got problems? Let's solve them. Don't count out American innovation. Don't count out American know-how. Ask folks to step up, and they will. That's what's been missing, though, is the call for people to step up. And hopefully this can add to that call today.
So whose voice needs to be heard? Not just the victims, because we know that voice needs to be heard. When you're reporting to your Consumer Reports, I think I even saw, as I was walking through the grocery store checkout line, the Consumer Reports magazine, as to the safe vehicle reports. Tell us a little bit about what your goal is there in producing those reports. Is it those people, basically the folks in the grocery store clerk's line, one that needs to get on board with this?
Sure. Well, just clear caveat, I lead our advocacy work. We've got Jeff Plungis right here in the audience, who's one of our rock star reporters. They do all the journalism. Y'all can ask him afterwards why he does it, but from what I know of him and from what I know of our organization, it's because we see problems out there where there are solutions, and we don't want to see people getting hurt. I mean, bottom line is we want a fairer, safer, healthier world. It doesn't have to get more complicated than that. And we want to make sure that people are aware where there are technologies out there that can solve the problems, what choices consumers can make to protect themselves, and how they can stand up to push the levers of power to create change.
So your Consumer Reports is reporting essentially whether or not the car that people are buying is safe, is that right?
So we do a variety of things. We've got a great testing team who puts almost every new car through its paces to understand all the different consumer features of it, and we definitely bundle safety into one of the key factors within our ratings. In fact, our ratings, to qualify for some of the highest picks, for some of the Best Buy ratings, recommended ratings, you need to have standard equipment on that vehicle, for example, that will automatically stop the car in an emergency situation. The problem is, as we've seen from some cars out on the road, that technology sadly doesn't work, even when you've got the broadside of an 18-wheeler in front of you. So even there, some of this basic technology is still critical. And at the end of the day, you heard people are going to keep making mistakes. We're humans. We mess up sometimes, and that's part of the reason why we've got to invest in technology to deal with the fact that real humans make real mistakes, and we need real solutions like Underride guards to address them.
There's no question. So if we hear the industry saying, well, the four-wheel vehicle is mostly at fault, well, it shouldn't be a death sentence. Do you agree?
To me, it's not about fault. At the end of the day, it's about saving lives. And what's the best solution for saving lives?
So I'm going to have you pass the mic to Glen Berry real quick. Glen, how do we get truck drivers and truck companies on board with this process?
I think they just need to see it. So, with Perry going down to the Mid-America show and showing that it's out there, I think is what you need to have first. It's going to cost you this, it's going to be this much weight on your truck. These technologies will help, and it's out there. They need to see it.
So, tell us, why is the industry somewhat resistant to this? Tell us a little bit of detail. Is it, we heard weight. Tell us whatever.
I think it's just the unknown. It's always going to be an economic issue, no matter what company it is, whether it's a cell phone company or a trucking company. But there's viable problem-solving technology out there, like these guys have said. So until they know what's out there and they see it, they need to know it's there first so they can use it.
So I want to take you back in time to this morning when I was waiting for breakfast. You and I were having a discussion about Pennsylvania. What was that discussion?
It was about IFTA fuel taxes.
Tell us a little bit more.
As the last 5 years, their costs. The way IFTA works is you buy so many gallons of fuel. If you drive a amount of miles in their state, you drove 500 miles in their state, you need to buy, if your truck gets 5 miles to the gallon, you need to buy 100 gallons of fuel from their state, or they will charge you a tax on that. So Pennsylvania in the last few years, like I say, has gone just out of control as far as their tax per gallon of fuel. Where I live in Ohio, it's 28 cents a gallon for a gallon of diesel. Pennsylvania, 74 cents.
Okay, so I want to talk about that point. So truck companies and truck drivers pay 74 cents a gallon. How many miles per gallon do you get in a truck?
Depending on which truck, old truck, new truck, we'll just call it 6.5 to an average.
6.5 miles per gallon. Okay, so you're spending 74 cents for every 6.5 miles. What about spending 50 cents a day just to put one of these devices on a trailer? Because we know the life of these trailers is a long time.
Very viable.
So we're talking 50 cents a day versus 74 cents for 6 miles. So it's a huge difference. You don't just drive 6 miles.
No, it's an overall cost for every stage you go through.
All right, so the truck industry and the truck companies are willing to spend X number of dollars per mile for a gallon of gas and taxes on these things.
You sure you want to put Willing in there?
Good point. They have to pay these things in order to keep their wheels turning and keep them earning. And the ELDs, electronic logging devices, are a safety device for keeping truck drivers alert. What's the cost of that per truck per month?
Our cost is about $50 per truck per month.
So even the AngelWing would be something cheaper than the ELDs on a monthly basis if you broke it down, and on a daily basis if you broke it down that way.
Correct.
So why is the industry
Per trailer.
So why is the industry not doing it? Just the unknown. They just need to be educated.
They need to be educated, exactly.
So I'll pass the mic over to Aaron. What are some of the reasons why the industry has been against this, to your knowledge?
I would say the unknown is really a very good answer. It's easier to stay with where you are and where you're comfortable rather than to try something new and different. And I know trucking is a bottom line industry where weight does count. And the design that I've been looking into and researching, the design provides additional aero benefit to offset the additional weight and cost. And so at the end of the day, it would be a win-win for a company to put the full-length skirt on to receive the aerodynamic benefits. And so I think overcoming some of the misconceptions about what we're doing and how we're doing it would be very helpful. But I can't put my finger on one thing. I think it is just what you know is what you like.
Barry, you're out there. You are actually, I think, acting as an expert sometimes in these cases. What's the industry saying as to why this can't be done or shouldn't be done or what have you?
I think, first of all, the trucking industry needs to be known that it's available. Once it's made available, I don't know that there's a trucking company out there that doesn't want a safer trailer. The improved Underride guards, they weren't out there, or they weren't on trailers until the IIHS shed a light on that issue. And once those improved rear Underride guards became available, that's what the trucking companies wanted to buy. They wanted the safer trailer. So you first got to make it available, make it known, and then I think they'll want it.
Thank you. David, Dorrity, what do you think? Why is what do you hear as to why the industry thinks that this is something that shouldn't be done or can't be done or otherwise?
I think the primary reason is cost. And I'm of the opinion, after years of looking at this, that the trucking industry is not going to do it unless they're forced to do it. One of the things that has become obvious to me, even though research, and it's a little bit different topic, research that has been promoted by the likes of the National Safety Council, which I'm a member of, the American Society of Safety Engineers, which I'm a member of, have determined that the distracted brain is kindred with impaired or intoxicated driving. With that knowledge, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration allowed truck drivers to still talk on the cell phone. They had to do it hands-free, but they could still use their distracted brain to talk. I don't know how many number of cases that I've had where the driver is talking, or says he's talking on a Bluetooth type device, but talking on the phone and crashes into somebody. And there's psychological, cognitive reasons for that we won't have time to go into. Trucking companies, knowing that, and in their depositions, stand their ground and say, but we're going to do just what the law allows us to do, and no more. This is about not just doing the minimum. This is really about the golden rule. Doing unto others as they would if their kids were out there getting ready to strike the side of that truck.
What's the answer to the cost question? I think we just talked about it a little bit with Glen Berry, just to put it into perspective, but that's not the answer. That just puts it into perspective. The cost is fairly minimal in comparison to all the other costs. But certainly that cost, and you worked in the industry. How do you tell the industry, hey, this is worth the cost? Because there's direct costs to crashes that everybody can think of. There's also indirect costs to crashes. What are some of these things that you can talk to the industry and say, hey, this is a good idea?
Well, that's a real good question. Most of the companies tend to get it after they have a tragedy. That's just a little too late. We're going to have to be a little bit more predictive, a little bit more faithful, have a little more faith that what we're doing saves lives. I see this, quite frankly, as such a big public policy issue, and I know some of our legislators may have left, that I think society is going to have to help foot the bill. Because I would have just a little bit of concern that small trucking companies in particular that struggle economically may have a bigger impact than the large super carriers might have. They just don't have as much base to distribute the cost of that. So maybe some type of tax credits, incentives for trucking companies to retrofit their equipment. I would like to see legislators consider that as part of a total package.
So let's talk a little bit about the smaller motor carrier that's struggling. They can't even afford the fancy insurance, so they're usually at the insurance minimums, isn't that right?
Well, that is correct. They are practically, you and I, Andy, have more insurance than a lot of trucking companies have.
So a lot of the cases involving Underride, you've seen and talked to and followed the attorneys both on the defense side and on the plaintiff side, all the way to verdict on these cases. On the Underride cases, you've seen probably verdicts